if Ben Simmons doesn't get traded, he is not playing for the 76ers. He could start and might not play all season long, making about 26, 27. The Philadelphia 76ers are paying Ben Simmons to sit home on his butt as a healthy scratch because they don't want him in the locker room, they don't want him at practices, and they don't want him in games because he's a cancer inside that locker room. And now the story, who's going to make the trade for Ben Simmons? When we heard the 76ers wanted 3 first-round draft picks, then we heard they'll take a cut on it. We'll take 2 first-round draft picks and a player. Now we're hearing they'll take a player and 1 first-round draft pick. And now the team that slowly but surely is peeking their head through the outer layer of the 76ers is the Boston Celtics. Who would have thought the Boston Celtics would be interested in Ben Simmons, when all the Boston Celtic fans that call our show on the Sports Loudmouths make jokes, press jokes on this guy, that he's the worst shooter, the worst NBA player, highest paid player ever for the money that he gets paid, who can't shoot a lick at the three-point line when the NBA has completely transitioned into a three-point game.
Yeah, and I think the Celtics right now, it's a really bad case for them to go after Ben Simmons because they've done well defensively this year. Ben Simmons is known for his perimeter defense, was a lockdown guy, all defensive team last year. Doc Rivers said he was arguably the best defensive player he's ever coached. And the Celtics are winning games 90-86. They're winning 96-91. They're needing offense. They need shooting. They need a good point guard. They need some guys that can help inside. Jaylen Brown has done really everything for this team this year. Jason Tatum's had a rough start to the year as a result of playing with the U.S. Olympic team, the wear and tear on his body. They've gotten flashes from different young players like Peyton Pritchard and Robert Williams, but that's really it. It's really all Jaylen Brown this year, and you wonder if Brad Stevens being in the front office rather than coaching is making a difference too, and how much were they really system fits more than they were actually good players too. So the Celtics, I think, need to avoid that kind of thing. If they're going to make trades, they're going to make trades for guys that can help them offensively, and I think they need more than one too. This team is not as deep as it used to be. When they made the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to LeBron's Cavs and they lost once to Miami, they had depth on those teams. This team doesn't have good depth. They're really trusting a lot of youngsters to get it going all at once, and that's going to be very hard, especially with a new coaching staff. So I don't like the Ben Simmons move at all.
I don't know if it's going to happen, but it is a rumor, and I know a lot of Celtic fans don't want to hear it. The whole Kyrie Irving thing. I remember when Kyrie Irving told the Celtics that he's going to be a Celtic for the rest of his career. The year after, he leaves to free agency, goes to the Brooklyn Nets, and now all the fans can't stand Kyrie Irving. Now, all of a sudden, what are the Celtic fans going to do if this does go through and they do decide to trade Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons? Are they going to boo Ben Simmons because he's on the court playing for the Celtics? I already know the Celtic fans can't stand him, so what are they going to do? I look at Brad Stevens. He's not a GM. He's a head coach. Everybody talks about how great Brad Stevens was as a head coach. What did he win? He didn't win anything. And now he took over for Danny Ainge. Now, taking over for Danny Ainge did win a championship. He made a trade, bringing in Kevin Garnett and obviously bringing in Ray Allen to add with Paul Pierce, and that helped them win a championship. So you can't really attack Danny Ainge for all the stupid things Danny Ainge has done. He's done some great things because he did win a championship. So now Brad Stevens, the whole future of the Celtics is left into a guy that's never been a GM. He's never been a winner in the NBA as a head coach. And what I mean by winner is a championship head coach. So I know a lot of Celtic fans are probably jumping out of their chair when you hear Ben Simmons' name in the conversations for Jaylen Brown, who's having an unbelievable season. He's an all-star this year. He's been one of the best players in the league this year. He's been fantastic. And now they're thinking about trading him. It doesn't make any sense. As far as the New York Knicks, I look at the Knicks. I don't know what this team is. Tom Thibodeau speaks out the other day after a game that the Knicks could have won. I'm talking about the Milwaukee Bucks game when they came all the way back from 20. They did it twice in almost a week. Last week, they came back from a 21-22 deficit, and they won. And now this week, they played the Bucks again, and the Bucks had a doubleheader. They won against the 76ers. You wouldn't think that they were going to come out strong and play hard against the Knicks. They go into Madison Square Garden and embarrass the New York Knicks. They were up by 21-22. The Knicks come back in the fourth quarter. They get back into the game. They even tie the game. And then you have Grayson Allen shooting threes all over. And you have all these different guys, besides Grayson Allen, you had never even heard of. Bench guys shooting three-point shots.
And Grayson Allen, we don't remember for an NBA guy, more a college guy.
He's been really, really good.
He's been improving.
Grayson Allen is one of the big signings in the offseason after losing Tucker.
He did well last year with the Grizzlies, too. He's gradually improving. It's just still
he can shoot.
He's just still not one of the surprising. You say, all right, if Milwaukee's going to beat us, who's it going to be? Giannis, Chris Middleton? No, Grayson Allen.
He's averaging almost 13 points a game this year, which is pretty good for a guy that wasn't wasn't averaging anywhere close to that last year. He's starting to develop. Maybe it's coaching. Maybe it's the team that he's playing for, the spread offense, playing with the Greek Freak. Who knows? But Tom Thibodeau was attacked by the press at his press conference at the end of the game. They were talking about why isn't the starting five scoring the points? Their starting five is scoring the least amount right now in the NBA as a starting five. And you talk about Walker, who they brought in, who's only averaging 11 points. I think that will get better. When you talk about Julius Randle, who is ball hogging and forcing the ball up. When you're watching Julius Randle, there are games in the first half of the game, he's shooting 15 shots. And he's taking away shots from other players like Fournier, the Quigleys of the world. Even Obi Toppin is shooting the ball very well. Why is Julius Randle hogging the ball? Now, I am not a Julius Randle fan. He's a good player. He's a star. He's a sensational pickup for the New York Knicks, a small contract. He helps the Knicks in the future, bringing in another superstar to come and play with some of the players that they have right now. But if he is hogging the ball and he is forcing the ball up, a.k.a. a Carmelo Anthony wannabe, and I say wannabe because he's nowhere close to the talent Carmelo Anthony was when he came here. And when you're isolating on the court, Tom Thibodeau's offense is not an isolation offense, usually. Now, when Derrick Rose was on the team or Jimmy Butler was on the team, I think when Jimmy was the number one guy on the Chicago Bulls, it was more of a pass first, shoot second type of team.
Because Butler wasn't the raw shooter at that time.
When Rose was on the team, it was an isolation. He used a lot of Rose. He isolated the game. Tom Thibodeau could play both. Tom Thibodeau likes to shoot the three. He's making the players shoot more threes than we've ever seen the Knicks shoot. And that's why in the beginning of the season, the Knicks led the league in three-point shots. But you look at their bench right now. Their bench is fantastic. They have one of the best benches in the league. But if your front five is not scoring, that's a huge problem. And Tom Thibodeau can make an excuse all he wants to lose a game that you could have won and you should have won when you came back in the fourth quarter the way you did against a Milwaukee Bucks team. Yes, they're the champions, but they're not the same team that they once were last year. You should have won, and there's no excuses to losing that game, especially a couple of games ago, losing against the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I actually love that statement by Thibodeau, though, too. It proves that nobody is really safe in that spot. And we've seen people criticize Thibodeau in the past, too, for overusing players. And maybe now he realized, all right, the bench units are doing well. This rotation, this strict rotation thing might not be the right way to be able to do this team. And I think maybe Tom Thibodeau also evolves from this, too, and realizes maybe the rotation. I'm not saying put all the bench guys in the starting lineup at once, but maybe play around with it more. Derrick Rose gets some starts. You could put Fournier in different spots. This team is versatile, so use him that way. And I think this could help his coaching style grow as a whole, too. You mentioned he plays so many different concepts offensively, and that's a good thing in itself. And defensively, we know how talented that the Knicks are. They're very good in that system. They struggled against Milwaukee. They have way too many open threes for whatever reason. But normally, they're naturally a very, very good defense. But offensively, they need to make those kinks. If the starting five isn't playing well, play different combinations. Be like a hockey coach. Maybe formalize different rotations in terms of different lineups. Substitute more often. Maybe every 2-3 minutes rather than doing like, all right, these guys stay on the court for 6 minutes and then these four play 6 minutes and that's it. Yeah, players are going to have a hard time gelling in comparison to a natural system, but when you have that much depth, learn how to play with the depth. It's early in the season.
When you watch the Knicks play, you don't know what Knicks team you're going to get. The Knicks team that's going to absolutely demolish a team in the first half and play short defense in the second half and try to keep your defense up where you can completely shut a team down, or you're going to see the Knicks team take an early lead, a 20, 30-point lead, and then fall apart in the second half and almost lose the game. We've seen all different kinds of Knicks teams this year. I want to see a significant, overcharged New York Knicks team that is going to play the same way every week, every day, every game, where they can compete every single night. It's embarrassing sometimes when you watch this Knicks team. Tom Thibodeau deserves a lot of credit on why this team's growth and who this team is and the identity of this team is. But here's the problem. We all know what Tom Thibodeau has done over the years. He's one of the best coaches in the NBA the first 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden these players completely fall apart. They don't want to play the same way they were playing for Tom Thibodeau because he's an edge defensive guy. Right. He wants you to play defense first, offense in second, and these guys want to put the points up because they want to make their big contracts. So we don't know how long this is going to last for the Knicks because we've seen it in Chicago. It lasted for a significant amount. For 5 years, he was dominant, and then all of a sudden, everything started falling apart. Mm-hmm. And then he gets fired. Then he goes to the Timberwolves. He becomes a GM, and he becomes the coach. And how long did that last? 3 years? He brings Jimmy Butler in. He didn't get along with this guy. He didn't get along with that guy. They trade him to the 76ers, traded away their team's future, and then he gets fired. And now he's with the Knicks. So Tom Thibodeau is a great coach. He was coach of the year last year. I would say top 3, top 4 coaches in the NBA.
Yeah.
The problem with Tom Thibodeau is Tom Thibodeau loses his teams very short in his tenure with those teams. And I don't want to see that happen with the Knicks. This was his life where he wanted to take over this New York Knicks team. This is what he always wanted to do. This was his dream job. I want to see him continue. I want to see him bring a championship home to Madison Square Garden, something the Knicks haven't seen since the 70s. As far as the Brooklyn Nets are concerned, there's nothing to concern about them. They're playing good basketball. They're doing it without Kyrie Irving. I do believe Kyrie Irving will be back this year. I can't see him not coming back this year. But the question is he going to take the vaccine, obey by the NBA rules and the New York State rules? I don't know what he's going to do. But if they get Kyrie Irving back and this team plays like they've been playing the past week and a half, this is an 8-cylinder team. The power, you go from 4-cylinder to 6-cylinder to 8-cylinder. This team was starting off on a 4-cylinder. They weren't playing well. They skipped the 6-cylinder. They're now on 8. Harden's playing better. Kevin Durant's starting to get his feet back. Even guys like LaMarcus Aldridge has played well. If this team plays the way they are playing and they get Kyrie Irving back, watch out for them.
Yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge has really been revitalized this year offensively. You're expecting the Nets just to use him as a rebounder, a defensive type of guy, but not really shooting threes, but he's shooting mid-range. He can shoot smart shots, and the Nets need that kind of thing. When James Harden's really struggled to start the year, I think the new three-point rule is definitely affecting him, but also the inefficiency in general without Kyrie Irving on the court has really been bad for James Harden. So they need something like that to counter with efficiency, so your team isn't just trying to force bad shots early in the shot clock and not be able to make up for it with your defense, wear out your team. And we know the Nets' defense isn't anything special, but they haven't been bad this year. They've been better than a lot of people thought, too, because of those big men like LaMarcus Aldridge. And Kevin Durant's playing sensational. He's been carrying this team for the last 2 years, carried them throughout the playoffs when everyone else was hurt. And Kyrie Irving, we'll see if he does end up coming back. They don't have to rush to make a decision right now because they're playing well, but if they do end up in a bad slump, you wonder if they either have to force something onto Kyrie Irving or maybe even trade him for another point guard to be a placeholder. Patty Mills has played well in certain games, but he's not really a guy you could trust long-term to be that flashy ball movement type point guard and the offensive threat anywhere close to what Kyrie Irving is.
And how about Washington being the number 1 seed right now in the Eastern Conference? Who would have thought that? Now, Bradley Beal, people are talking about Bradley Beal getting traded in the offseason. Why would Bradley Beal want to leave this team if they're at the top of the Eastern Conference? I don't see him going to the Celtics, and they still have control of his contract. Why would he leave? Now, I know Jeff from Tampa, who listens to the Sports Loudmouths, he wants to see him go to the Celtics. I can't see the Washington Wizards trading him if they're playing this well. And a lot of their young players are playing well. A team that's really taken a step back is the Miami Heat, where everybody was like, watch out for this Miami Heat team. This Miami Heat team is healthy. The only person they're missing is Oladipo. When they do get him back, he does add offense to the team, but we don't know what he is. Miami has not played well, and Jimmy Butler last 2 games has not played well either. So if Jimmy's not playing at the top of his game, this team is not a playoff team. Tyler Hero's playing great basketball. He's the only one playing good basketball right now for Miami. And the Charlotte Hornets, who started off the season as the 2nd seed, are falling as 10th seed, and I think they're going to fall even further because I think Boston's better, Indiana's better, and the Atlanta Hawks are better. Yeah. I think slowly but surely Charlotte will move down as a 13, 14 seed, and they'll fall out of it, especially with injury. This is not a good team. So the Eastern Conference is winnable. As far as the Western Conference is concerned, we do know about Golden State. Right now, if the season were to end, people would say that Steph Curry is the MVP. This team is playing great basketball. Wiseman, their youngsters are playing well. Wiggins is playing well. And they don't even have Klay Thompson yet. Wait until they get Klay Thompson back. And maybe this will be a different team. Maybe this team is playoff bound. Maybe this team is championship bound. I don't look at this team as a full edge team. And what I mean by that is a team that is the team to beat in the Western Conference, because there are 3 teams that are not playing good basketball right now that I still think are better than they are. The Los Angeles Lakers, Utah, all around better than they are.
Right. We expect them to regress from the 1 seed, but we still think they'll be good.
And another team that I think is going to be better than them because they got their point guard back is Denver. When these teams start to figure things out, I don't think Portland is as bad as they are. I don't think Memphis is as bad as they are right now. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think these teams are a lot better than they look. But again, it's early in the season, and we're going to see how these things play out. But with the Timberwolves 3-7, looking at this team, are they going to trade Karl Anthony Towns? Are they going to trade Anthony Edwards? And there's a lot of people that believe that with the talent that they have, they should be winning more than this. They lost 6 games in a row. They don't look like they're getting any better. So maybe they got to rebuild. And with Alex Rodriguez there now running the team, with Loria, I think that they might decide, you know what, maybe it's a rebuild stage. Maybe we need to start to rebuild. We're not winning with the players that we have. So it's going to be very interesting as the season progresses where some of these teams go with their superstars.
Hey, Celtics, Karl Anthony Towns, that's the call you should be making, not Ben Simmons.
Well, I don't think they'll get Karl Anthony.
I don't think they will either, but they should at least try to do that, not get Ben Simmons.
They're going to have to give up a significant significant amount.
Oh, of
for Karl
course.
Anthony
I'm not
Towns.
denying that. But that's a better realistic trade of those draft picks than Ben Simmons.